program is brought to you by Newsworks in cooperation with the City of Eau Claire. This program is
All right,
simulcast.
I'm going to call the meeting to order. Prior to item number 2, I'd like to note that we are going to have a change of the agenda. After item 5, we will go to 8 and 9. So the last items on the agenda will be the closed sessions. Excuse me. Item number 2 is the minutes for the meeting of September 19, 2018. They were in your packet. Any adjustments or additions, changes anyone wants to put up?
I would move approval of the minutes.
Okay, second? Okay, moved and second to approve the minutes as presented. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Minutes are approved. Financial statements, including the 2007 Baker Tilly audit.
Good morning.
Morning.
I will start with a review of the September 2018 expenses and then move into the year-end review. As of September 30th, 2018, fiscal year 18 RDA operating expenses total $5,450 due to utility, auditing, and recording expenditures, and capital expenditures for the month of September totaled $1,560.53. These are due to ongoing rental costs of the properties located at 1702 and 1706 Oxford Avenue. Any questions? Otherwise, I'll move on.
Any questions? Go ahead.
Okay. So for the year-end review for fiscal year 2017, page 3 of that document mentions just some financial highlights. So I'll start there and just mention that the net position at the end of 2016 was $2,594,022. The net position at the end of 2017 was $2,445,395, or a decrease of $148,627. This is primarily driven by the fact that there are remediation efforts and acquisition efforts ongoing in the cannery district. So there are some significant expenses being incurred for that. Page 5, I will just focus on figures 1 and 2, just to kind of provide a breakdown of how they arrive at that net change. You can see that assets decreased by about $38,000 or so. This is primarily due to a decrease in the non-current assets, which are comprised of the value of the property that's being held for resale. So as property that the RDA owns is being sold, obviously you're going to have a decrease in that value of land being held for resale. And there was an increase in liabilities of about $110,000. This was due to an outstanding liability for some work being done in the cannery district. So if you look at it from an asset and liability perspective, you can see where that net decrease of $148,000 comes from. Figure 2 just presents another way of looking at that from a revenue and expense perspective, like you would usually see in a budget document. Non-operating revenues totaled $87,677 for the year. This is driven by gain on sale of land that the RDA sold in the cannery district, and a smart growth grant, which was about $15,000. Expenses totaled $236,304. These are primarily driven by the utilities, contractual services that you see on a month-to-month basis. There also was a developer incentive of $60,000 tied to the Phoenix Parkside LLC agreement that I believe is 10 years old. So that was the last of the 10-year $60,000 land write-downs. And then there were some non-operating expenses of $28,734. This was just a write-off of some grant revenues that were basically had been booked as a receivable, and as the work for which we were seeking grant reimbursement was wrapped up, it ended up being that the costs were less than anticipated, so our grant reimbursements were less than anticipated. So there was just a write-off of that amount there. So that gets you to a loss before contributions of $148,627, which ties to the change in net position for the RDA.
Okay.
So if you have any questions, I will be glad to answer those.
Any questions on the financials? Audit? Okay, very good, thank you. Just, Dr. Kemp, if we have 2.5 million, what are the chances if we get the mega, put it into mega tonight, or see if the RDA get $1 million or $1 billion? What are the odds?
0.
0? Okay, very good. Thank you for that learned advice. Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the financials as presented? Second?
Second.
Second. Moved and seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. They are approved. Okay. Item number 4, motion to grant W Capital Group LLC a 90-day exclusive right to reach a purchase and development agreement for land on Oxford Avenue in the Cannery Redevelopment District. Steve? Excuse me, Scott. Be all right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before you this morning is a request from W Capital Group LLC to look to a favorable motion from the board for a 90-day exclusive right to reach a purchase and development agreement for land located on Oxford Avenue in the Cannery Redevelopment District. The property itself is located immediately north of the Family Video building and immediately south of the currently under construction Marine project. And as included in your packet, some information from the developer who's interested in that property. And I'd be happy to answer any questions I could. Otherwise, Mr. Tyler Warner is present here if there are specific questions you'd like to ask of him. But again, no financials are provided at this point, just some general framework in terms of the proposed multi-family building that he's looking at for this property. I'm trying to show both these at the same time. It's not entirely easy. Show this, I think, better. But again, Mr. Chair, if there are any questions, happy to try to answer those.
Okay, Scott, thanks. Questions? Catherine?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm interested in learning about, perhaps a little bit more about the price range of the workforce housing.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and Councilmember Manuel. I'll have the, Mr. Warner step forward here.
Great.
Thanks.
Hi there. My name is Tyler Warner. I'm from Eau Claire, Wisconsin originally. So the question was about the price ranges. Are you talking about rental rates?
Yes.
Okay, so they're about $1 to $1.05 per square foot.
I'm sorry, I missed that. We
Yeah,
had
so-
a sidebar.
So they're about $100 to $250 less per month than normal market rate housing units are in Eau Claire per month. So.
May I ask a follow-up?
Of course.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for that information, and thanks for being from Eau Claire. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
And giving and looking to give back. So, that information is helpful. Do you have perhaps a starting range of what you think a potential tenant would be paying?
Yeah, so studios would be anywhere from $500 to $550, where market rate would be $700 to $750. One bedrooms would be anywhere from $650 to $750, and then the 2 bedrooms would be anywhere from $850 to $1,000. And then we have some 3 bedrooms in there too. We might be looking at doing a couple 3 bedrooms that would be for homeless transitional use temporarily, and then maybe transfer into normal, 30 to 40% set aside at that point. Right now, we're just looking for, tentative approval to do some soil borings on the site to figure out if we need to put in geopiers to support the building. Yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Tom?
solicitation and thanks for bringing this proposal forward. So the rents and sort of the costs associated with this is, you know, roughly 2/3 to 3/4 market rate. So what's the secret? So how does one provide housing at lower costs?
Right, so I'm going to be using a blended approach here for the sources of capital for the project. I'm working with WIDA right now to submit an application for tax credits from them. I have a couple of syndicators that are interested in purchasing these tax credits if and when they're provided or granted to the project. I've been working with Jay, your finance director, and looking at maybe using some TIF. I've also been analyzing some private money coming in, as well as the syndicator money coming in as well. The WIDA housing program is a great program to revitalize areas and provide housing for people that are making less than 60%, 40%, 50%, 30% of the county median incomes. This is a good opportunity to supply the downtown area with the much needed subsidized housing product.
Okay. Any other questions? I guess we're okay. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right. Can I get a motion to allow a 90-day exclusive for them to do their research?
So moved.
Okay, a second?
Second.
Catherine, second. Any further discussion? Okay, hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Approved. Very good, thank you. Next is the presentation and discussion on project proposed for 126 North Barstow Street, the liner site, and 214 North Barstow Street, Block 7. Scott?
Thank you again, Mr. Chair. So before you this morning are 4 proposals that relate to one or both properties, and we do have most, if not all, of the proposers here in the audience. What we wanted to do was to allow them each 5 to 10 minutes to share a little background on their proposal. You've been provided kind of a executive summary, a brief overview of each of their proposals in your agenda packet, and so I'm assuming they'll be going through a little bit of that with you this morning. So I'm just here to really set the stage a little bit, talk about the fact that we put out a request for proposals back in September with a deadline of Friday, September 28th. This is a follow-up RFP to one several years ago that we're now looking to kind of rejuvenate and reach out again as interest has grown over the last just few years in the downtown area, especially the North Barstow district. So with that, I put out the request for proposals and was pleasantly surprised to see 4 very strong proposals submitted. 3 of them are related to both Block 7 and the liner site. One is focused solely on the liner site. The way they were presented in your agenda packet is simply the order they were received. So that was the deciding factor in terms of who may be going first this morning, as well as how things were presented to you in the materials. So with that, again, 3 of the proposals include projects for both properties with options for a new and expanded children's museum on Block 7. 4th proposal, as I mentioned, outlines a project for the liner site or perhaps another comparable downtown site. Again, as you see, the proposals do reflect positively on public and private collaborative redevelopment efforts in the North Barstow district, and certainly indicate a continued strong market interest in downtown Eau Claire. So the 3 proposers that included both properties are Commonweal Development, Merge Urban Development Group, and Pablo Properties. Hoff Builders, on behalf of one of their clients, submitted a proposal for the liner site solely. The 3 multi-site proposed projects estimated construction cost range of over $30 million in investment. So last week, city staff conducted in-person interviews with each of the 4 proposers on their proposals to better understand the proposals prior to discussion direction here this morning. Out of that, that's what then you see the kind of revised, summarized, executive overview, as it were, for each of the proposals provided to you in the packet. So with that, negotiations would follow to attempt to reach purchase and development agreement with the developer or developers selected, and we'll talk a little bit about that after the presentations as we move forward in the agenda. So with that, I will turn it over to the proposers to present their individual proposals, and Hoff Builders is slated to go first. I did not see Maureen here though, so again, not a requirement for them to present, but wanted to offer the opportunity for them to just, you know, kind of speak before you a little bit more specifically to each of their proposals. So with Hoff not here, we will then move next to Commonweal. I believe Ryan and Stuart will come forward. We have a little bit of a technology transition, so I think we're gonna plug in PowerPoint here, so bear with us as we make that adjustment. While Ray finds the correct input, again, as we go through this, we don't want to overuse our time here this morning, so we want to limit things to 5 to 10 minutes, but that's exclusive of questions. So if you have any questions, we'll certainly take some additional time to field any of those as we go along.
Okay, ready? Great.
All right, good morning. I'm Stuart Schaefer with Commonweal Development, who most of you actually know. We actually, this is our third proposal on Block 7 for some of you folks who've been on the RDA for a while. We have been trying to answer the needs and desires with the first two proposals. One had an indoor public market, and another had the just local food co-op that I guess just that weren't quite in keeping with what everybody wanted. But we've been very interested in proposing on Block 7 and the liner site. Thought we had a great office project for the liner site about 2 or 3 years ago, but that didn't come to fruition. But things have probably things have picked up now. Demand looks like it's stronger for the office product, and we still feel that the housing is there's a reasonable amount of demand for housing as well. So our plans at this point are, even after having done this 3 times, fairly preliminary in nature, in that we haven't really dug into the programming for the children's theater, although we think land use is a key component for your considerations here today. And we think that we have the land use component basically identified, and that's what our proposal really is talking about, is what are the appropriate land uses for those 2 sites. We feel strongly that, and it felt strongly all along, that there should be commercial along Barstow, some kind of commercial, and or the entertainment component that the Children's Museum would bring forth, and on the liner side as well. We think that going down Wisconsin Street, that residential is appropriate, because that's kind of what has been seen there. Our Riverfront Terrace project is created kind of a neighborhood with the projects across the street, so we see that as kind of a residential corridor, and would think that that's the most appropriate use going forward. So, as I say, our plan is conceptual in nature. Obviously, more details would have to be worked out as we move forward, and the key component is land use. We've got some conceptual drawings to show basically what we think the building should kind of look like a little bit. that probably needs more work is Children's Museum, because again, we haven't done any programming with them exactly to find out what they need. There's probably opportunities for other groups to partner with the Children's Museum, and there's been some discussions in that regard. So that building, that location, we think is really appropriate, but we think that we've gotta, we've really gotta work on that design a little bit more. And our office building probably needs some work. We think that that could actually be a little bit higher density and, take a little bit better advantage of the river, the view across the river. But, I guess in general, we think that, that the land use that we're proposing is appropriate, and we would look forward to working with some of the other groups possibly too on the development of the project. I think that, the overriding reason to keep Commonweal involved is because of our history in the area. And I think you look at past projects in the Chippewa Valley, we've got, just in the last 4 or 5 years, we've developed some very appropriate projects. Here's a building in Menominee, office building in Oakwood Hills, the Confluence project, obviously, with the Haymarket Landing mixed-use project, and the Pablo Center in Confluence. Other office buildings that we've done recently, the Jam building and the Whiffley building. And we've been involved in a number of other apartment buildings, including Riverfront Terrace and the Oakwood Ridge. So, I don't have a lot to tell you about us, because I think everybody knows who we are. We really would rely on our experience and our reputation in the market to hopefully work with the city and some of the other proposers on the project.
Questions? Jeff?
Stuart, thank you for this submittal and the work you've done downtown. It's another quality submittal last Saturday. All appreciate it. I'd like to pick your brain a little bit on what you think the absorption rate is in the community right now for Class A office, new. Historically, I know you track it closely, but are we tracking historical numbers, or is it a little different, or what are your thoughts on absorption for office?
Well, that's a good question, Jeff. I mean, historically, we haven't had a real uniform, regular absorption cycle in this market. And we think that there are potential users out there right now, though, where we think that, somewhere between 60 and 80,000 square feet of office space could be filled in the next couple of years.
That is a multi-year number, though. Yes, not an annualized.
Well, I wouldn't tell you that the next 10 years we're gonna have 60,000 square feet a year of Class A office space absorbed. No, there looks as if there is an opportunity now to fulfill the needs of several users. And that, would be in the next year or two. And then that would be what we would be looking for, to fill that office space.
Any other questions? Stuart, one from me. The residential portion, how many apartments, or just off the top of your head, how many people?
We're looking at roughly 90 apartments, some of them being a little bit smaller.
Mm-hmm.
We'd probably be looking at 120 to 130 occupants in that apartment project.
Okay.
We would be researching the potential of affordable housing within that project, possibly a quarter of the units. That's, based on financing mechanisms that we could put in place.
Sure.
To make that a reality.
Very good. Any other questions? Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Scott?
Thank you, Commonweal. Next up, we have Merge Urban Development Group. And again, I can certainly provide some visuals if we need those, and really just wanted to offer opportunity for Q&A if there aren't more formal presentations.
Yeah, you're welcome to put up
Sure,
visuals if you
grab
like,
that.
but
Sure.
otherwise I think we provided our printed booklets as well. So, my name is Joy Hahnemann. I'm the Director of Operations at Lancaster Investments and a co-founder of Merge Urban Development Group. I graduated from UWEC in 2010, And while I have always had a special place in my heart for Eau Claire, I so enjoyed bringing my team to EC to enjoy it and envision development that would achieve both the economic and social desires for downtown. We've been working in Eau Claire since June and have taken the time to meet with community members, business people, and city staff to learn about Eau Claire's assets and its aspirations. The pride in this community is strong. We heard numerous stories about the flourishing creative economy, EC's strong community partnerships, and its investments in health, safety, and education. One thing that was made abundantly clear was that it was so enjoyable to be in downtown Eau Claire. We want to compliment Pablo, Commonweal, and Monarch Ventures. Not only have you done great work to make Eau Claire what it is today, your team's made impressive proposals. Since this is a competitive process, I'll get straight to what makes our proposal so different from the others, and that is density. Demand for downtown housing was a consistent point of discussion in our neighborhood feedback. People love being downtown, but there simply aren't enough places to live. Our team feels strongly that Eau Claire is ahead of its peers in commercial and public uses in the downtown, but behind in housing. And housing and public and commercial uses will never maximize their community impact alone without a balance of the other. I'm going to take a step back and describe our process. In our research and meetings, our team identified 3 broad parameters to imagine on Dante. They are tax revenue, sustainability, and creativity. First, we knew that the city had a hard hurdle rate to achieve tax revenue to pay for its previous investments in downtown. Second, and core to our beliefs about the Opportunity Zone program and our long-term ownership goals, the project needed to be sustainable. To us, sustainability means it has to be walkable, it has to make housing choices available and affordable, it works with public transportation, it improves safety, and it protects the environment. To achieve both the tax revenue, hard hurdle rate, and the sustainability that we believe in, we knew density needed to be part of this plan, and that Block 7 and the Liner site could be one of the last great opportunities to drive density in the heart of downtown Eau Claire. Finally, creativity. Density alone doesn't create great places to live. Our third parameter was driven by discovery in our community engagement efforts, paired with Slingshot Architecture's creativity and their experience in placemaking. We knew we had to create buildings and active spaces that blended Eau Claire's history, its pride in music and the arts, and the importance of family. I want to take a minute to acknowledge my team. Dan Drendel isn't here today, but he is one of 3 partners at Slingshot Architecture. He has brought his talent, experience, and his team to Eau Claire over the last 4 months to design the site to be walkable and foster the musical and playful movement that this city loves. Dan and his team are based in Des Moines and have worked on over 50 urban developments and restorations in their hometown. Brent Dahlstrom, owner of Echo Development Group, has been our visionary development lead. He has proven his ability to come to equitable solutions with communities and has been recognized nationally for his community development and in his home state for business innovation, redevelopment, and philanthropy. Finally, John Lancaster. John sold his family business in 2012 and plans to partner in qualified opportunity zone development across the Midwest. John is passionately committed to success in everything that he does. We learn from John every day, and I can attest to the fact that he lives by his motto that he's in for a penny, he's in for a pound. I have led our team in studying the Opportunity Zone program and its intent. The goals of this program were twofold. First of all, to spur capital flow into target neighborhoods, and second, to elevate the opportunity for communities that have experienced a disproportionate share of economic recovery since the recession. It is anticipated that actually less than 10% of the over 8,000 designated census tracts nationwide will actually attract outside investment. So this is a huge congratulations to Eau Claire. You're ahead of the pack. We're here today to look for a long-term relationship with the city of Eau Claire. We are positioned for many years of investment and development, and we're holding ourselves accountable to the program's intent to equalize economic opportunity by matching private capital with untapped potential. Thank you for inviting us to experience Eau Claire, and we would welcome the opportunity to discuss development terms. I think I'll invite Brent to join me for the questions.
Okay, very good, thank you. Questions from the board? Jeff?
Thank you again for your participation in this process, and it's great to see folks from out of town willing to and interested to invest here. Can you walk us through some of the buildings a little bit for the audience as well? We have some of it in our packet, but just describe how the residential uses, how big are the buildings, what's in them, what are you fronting on Barstow?
Yeah, great question. So Brent Dahlstrom, thanks for your time this morning. Building D, which I know it doesn't make a lot of sense, but that is what we would see as phase one, and that is our liner site. You know, yeah, so, okay. So we have a brew pub, someone that's a national brewery winner, one of the fastest growing breweries in Iowa. He's has agreed to come here along with the project and open a restaurant, a brew pub there on the corner, and that would have an indoor-outdoor space that walk down to Barstow, and we would, yep, as it goes back there. So then we have micro retail, and we've been doing this a lot of developments. So one of the hard things that some of the original development in downtown get some really big commercial spaces that would require some significant investments for a tenant to start. So if you have a 6,000 square foot space and you're looking at maybe $150 a square foot of build out, you might get up to $1 million investment for a user, which is very difficult, especially in a startup type atmosphere of a downtown. So we've been bringing these micro retail uses to many downtowns where we actually do the entire build out. So Merge takes on the entire build out, and you can walk into a space and not have any build out charge at all. Great for startup. Those same tenants are the ones that we see a couple years later after they've proved their concept, then move into those larger spaces once they can actually prove what they're doing. So then as you walk down to the corner, we have a corner retailer, and we have them slotted in for, it's a kind of it's a grocer, specialty meat, specialty cheese, wine, a place that you could go in and get some of those necessities as you live in the area or around. And the person's actually in Madison today. The liner site back in building E, that's just all residential, so walk-up units, so there would not be any commercial on the first floor. There is on the liner site a second floor courtyard. That would be the only thing that isn't accessible from the public, and you'd only be able to access that from the building. Building C is the Children's Museum. We've shown this to the Children's Museum. They loved the initial work. I think there'd still be a lot of work still to go with them to get to their final design, and we'd like that to be their process and not ours. We'd be happy to help, but I don't know in what capacity that'd be. And so continuing down Barstow, that is just really where we see the importance of continuing that first floor activity in commercial space. So we have micro retail once again, and then have another restaurant in the corner, and that is a fast casual health food restaurant that has multiple locations in Iowa today. That was not just food. When we talk to people, employers in the area, especially in downtown, they're looking for places where they could go to lunch and be out of there in 15 to 20 minutes and maybe not have to stretch the lunch onto that hour timeline. So that was that fast casual with vegetarian options along with meat options. And then as we go to the back, building A, not fronting Barstow, but on back to Wisconsin, that would be all residential is how we see it today. We say that all these buildings have the ability, and we just did this in Iowa, Joy, John, and myself, where the original plan was for residential on a floor, but an office user came along, and we were able to make that change and actually put an office user. And that was actually the day we dug, we were actually able to make that change. So although we really think that the large need is residential, if there was an office user that came along, all these buildings would have the ability on the second floor or the higher floors to put office in them.
Sorry to interrupt you. For the residential component, is it all rental? Is it condos and apartments? Can you talk about that a bit?
It is all rental. So part of if you're taking advantage of the Opportunity Zone program, you have to own for 10 years at a minimum to get its full benefit. So for us, in our group, we are long-term holders of real estate, but we are also required to do so. So we wouldn't be able to sell any units in that first 10 years at all, or the project itself.
Can you talk a little bit about the number of units throughout the complex and the phasing and rent spread for a studio to two-bedroom or whatever?
Absolutely. So 248 units is what is planned. And when Joy alluded to the fact of affordability, it's what we talk a lot about as a group, the social impact and the affordability of our apartments. These are market rate, but the large majority of our units are one bedroom and studio. And Slingshot, our architect, has done a lot of different projects in Des Moines and has really honed in on the correct sizes for units. And the importance of that is, somebody talked previous, for the cannery site, talked about $1 a square foot, right? And probably Eau Claire today is probably at $1.20. Well, if you can design a one bedroom at a 600 square foot level, and the unit operates correctly, at that $1.20, you're at $720 for the unit, which is very affordable for someone even making $16 an hour. And so that's, when we're talking about rental rates, we see it starting right around that $700 mark and then working its way up, where two bedrooms could get all the way up to $1,300 to $1,500. But it gives you a wide spectrum where if you have couples and people that are roommate sharing, so that you'd have dual incomes, that they could very well afford the two bedroom. And then a large part of our affordability, and we talk a lot about smart growth and walkable city, is the fact that the car is usually for lower income folks, can be the most their highest budget number, right? It's not housing, it's usually your transportation itself. And so the downtown has so many great things going on, but we want to have a place where it can be completely walkable and bikeable.
Okay. Tom?
Thank you all for the presentation, and thanks for the detail on the residential. Would you be willing to share similar detail on the commercial space? That is, we expect, particularly like the Bike-Girl office space, what kind of square footage rates are you talking?
Yeah, so for the startup community, we've found a lot that really people want to see a gross rate, right? Just what do we have to pay a month? And so for maybe for an 800 square foot micro unit, that unit would go at $800, and that is a fully built out commercial space. John talks a lot about the need to have that commercial active and not have it empty after you open a building, and we talk about it a lot too. And part of the thing that we need to do is budget a lower number to not outprice those resale users.
So that would be similar for the larger spaces then too?
That is correct, yeah. And with the Opportunity Zone, we're actually able to help them with investment on the front end. So our goal with our retail users and both of our teams invest heavily into the startup space is to give them the capital that they need so that they don't have to take on so much debt as they start up their business. Thank you.
Catherine?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you as well for your presentation and coming price range for your apartments and maybe exploring some different tax credits so that, perhaps someone, looking at a starting price of 700, if that's too steep for them, that maybe there would be, some different or lower entry points, and if you think that's viable on this type of land.
Yeah, so we talk about it a lot. So this is labeled as a market rate complex, and $700 being affordable. So in Waterloo, Iowa, which is a very similar community, we've worked with the state of Iowa on one of the projects that actually won a national award on LMI, low to moderate income, right? And so a low to moderate income one bedroom in Iowa, which the community, I believe, has a lower income rate than Eau Claire, the one bedroom is now $800. So if we're able to bring in at our market rate without help of tax credits at $700, we're actually $100 less than what a low to moderate income person could afford, probably in Eau Claire. And one of the reasons we don't want to do a tax credit today is that we are excited to start as soon as possible. And part of this program, with John's great success and the use of capital gains, is we are looking to put this money to use right away. And with tax credits, which we've done a lot of tax credit projects in Iowa, and it discussed in Wisconsin, is there's a timing issue there as far as the application itself, and then the implementation. And so we fully believe that a low to moderate income person is going to be able to afford to live here, and actually could be less expensive than some designated affordable projects. But we're also excited that we'll be able to start right away without any fear of not getting an award.
Okay. Anything else? Very good. Thank you very much for the presentation.
Yes,
Very
thank you.
informative.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
it. Scott?
All right, our final proposal for your consideration here this morning is from Pablo Properties, and invite Julia up here to share as well. So I'll leave images here. Any questions, and go from there. Thank you.
Morning.
Good morning, I'm Julia Johnson with Pablo Properties. My partner is Zach Holmstead, and Jason Woody and I are excited to present this project to you. And we're also very excited to see the other proposals for this site. Feeling really happy as a community that we have these options before us. And we hope that you agree that one of them is worthy of the property that you are selling. I'll run through the details of our property and kind of our mindset of why we think that this is a good fit, or how we got to this proposal. A huge motivation in this project is the stacks. And you know, when we were telling Mike Schatz about the project, I kept saying there's something unexpected about our proposal, and it is the stacks. And we're calling it the stacks because people have preconceived images when you hear container park. You know, it may not sound like something that you would prize and give your riverfront property to, a container park, but in our research of visiting other container parks across the country, they are very dynamic and vibrant places, and we're really excited to offer a proposal that has this aspect of it because we think it would be a really great fit for our downtown, and it is an aspect that we are not replicating. You know, I think it is unique to our downtown. It doesn't exist in this fashion. It's very similar to kind of the microsites that you were explaining. It's really giving that easy entry-level access to retail in a downtown urban setting. So on our proposal, the stacks are on the liner site. it's basically a perimeter of these containers that are built out for either like retail, so shops, or food and beverage, and then there's an infrastructure that support those. So it would be a built-out shared kitchen that you have access to, but you don't have to prep everything within your, small square footage. It's shared restrooms, shared seating, and then there's this programming aspect that earns you foot traffic that you don't necessarily have to drive yourself. They are not long-term shops by design, though some places, like whether it be a nail salon or a hair cutting salon, they work well in those spaces and don't necessarily need the greater square footage if you would like to operate as a single proprietor. But there's that hope that you start here with the low rent and low lease commitment, so short-term leases, you don't have to sign a 3-year lease. And then you can graduate to a larger space, grow your business into something that perhaps you own and are growing equity, but this is really to get you off the ground and so that you're in a position that you can invest in your own business. So that is the passion within the project, and there's the cool factor of having the stage and the screen and the outdoor ice rink that would add energy to downtown. And then I'll also say that we chose that site for the stacks because of the low, it's not a very tall, you're not putting up a wall on the river. So not only do you see interest from the South Barstow side of, this container turned on its end and it's a big clock tower, or, the fact that they're literally containers stacked on top of each other, and it's very interesting architecturally, but it doesn't kind of claim the riverfront for a certain use. It's lower so you can see across from it in both directions. To help pay and make the valuation work for these sites, we have designed Block 7 with the optimal use of 125,000 square feet of Class A office space with retail on the bottom. We have 4,000 square feet set aside for a grocer, and we've had discussions with current grocers that we hope would be interested in operating that so that they get the kind of discount of volume and can offer that produce and products at affordable prices for the downtown residents and people that are working downtown and can stop for tonight's dinner before they head home. And we've also been in talks with a number of banks and other retail spaces that would like a pedestrian-friendly downtown location. The Children's Museum is, of course, a perfect fit for Block 7, as you've seen in many proposals. And I'm so happy that the Children's Museum is in all these proposals, and really looking forward to them having a wonderful new downtown home. We have proposed in our structure that we would resell the land to the Children's Museum so they could be off of the tax roll and offer that as part of our proposal with confidence because of the valuation in the office space and the plaza. And even though the container park is of lower density and valuation, it's still another $2.5 million that we would be offering to the tax base. Overall project costs being $32 million, and it is at a very accelerated pace. The only thing that we'd be holding back on is the stacks because they're easier to construct. Those would be, the construction of that would be started a little bit later, but finishing up at the same time. Do you have questions?
Tom?
Thanks.
Right, please.
Thanks for the presentation. It's interesting. Can you speak a little bit about the management of the common spaces? So for example, you talked about, kitchen space, I'm guessing, and then also the common area as well. How would that occur?
Yeah, well, we would, have, the plaza in the Block 7 is very public access. So to have a private event there, I think you would, I think that would be, more difficult, but having public events there, it's so open that I don't think that we could, I haven't imagined any private events there. The programming for the container park is basically through the association of the operator of the container park, so, the same person that you're dealing with to rent the spaces is going to be responsible for not competing with Sounds this summer, because we are not looking to break any of the wonderful things in Eau Claire, but, picking an alternate night that we feel, downtown can, offer an event like a movie. The ice rink isn't so event-based, right, that's just open. But there is this, entity that would need to lease, make sure that all of the common areas are clean, it's an operation.
So that would be, you obviously wouldn't do that. So.
It would be a company under Pablo Properties. Yeah, and we've also looked at, what the financing structure for that needs to be, higher equity in that, build out so that we can not put a lot of financing charges through to the renters, that it's something that needs to, really enable these startups that we are trying to provide opportunities for.
Connie?
Hi, Julia, thank you. As there may be a need for residential need in the downtown area, you're not really proposing any residential. Do you have any flexibility within your design to add residential?
Yeah, I feel through our questions that there's a feeling that we may have too much office space. We based our office space on groups that have approached us. But if we got into the process and, we're feeling like one of the floors is going to sit vacant of office, could we convert that into residential? I think that's something that we would be smart to look into. And residential is very popular. We felt like other groups have done well with residential, and we do have other residential projects in downtown. We weren't seeing that as the best use for Block 7, but if logistics prove otherwise, yeah.
Jeff?
Thank you for the presentation, and thank you for Pablo and all you've done for Eau Claire and downtown particularly. Can you talk a little bit more about the plaza on Block 7? Because that seems to me a really interesting space, but what's your vision for it, and what's all going on there?
So I have to credit architects BWBR, who are the same architects that drew up the North Barstow ramp, because we did not change much out of, they came to us with these ideas, and let's see if I have. Okay, so it's a little bit small, but the gray angular box you see here, that's actually a staircase from the parking ramp. So not only do you have this pedestrian access to pop up into the middle of this space, but there's a kind of designation of just stairs, and then this other seating area that could be used as a small performance stage. So your your stage is at the bottom, and then you're sitting on tiers to have focused attention. And, you know, programming wise, I'm not sure how that works out, but we saw it and we're like, that's a great idea. And I love that connection between, I left my car and now I'm in downtown. You know, you just kind of like pop up out in the street. There are, oh, I know I have a better image of this. Okay. So this entire edge along the office space has a generous overhang, and so now you have a shaded place for like cafe tables and pedestrian passage that you're out of the elements. I know that we wouldn't get through renditions of this plaza without me adding a coupe field, so, you know, I see the little blocks of grass, and I see that one growing in this direction so that you can give those college students a place to wander over with their coupe set. Other than that, I mean, public art is so important, and I think Eau Claire has done a great job with it, so I don't know if we would look to partner with the sculpture tour and add bases, or acquire that and have it be stationary public art. But they did a really great job with the rendition, and really it's that the site that they drew, the name of the site that we chose out of their options, this one was called Welcome. So even though we had the same, you know, pedestrian desire for, you know, like this storefront after storefront after storefront, we really surprised ourselves by selecting this one because it seemed to create a space that not only are you interested to walk by, but really welcomes you into the heart of this block.
Okay. Further questions? Please.
Thank you so much for the presentation. Your group has offered some really innovative ideas. You talked a little bit about perhaps down the road if logistics prove otherwise, being open to housing, and didn't seem like this was really the right mix for housing. That was one thing that did stand out to me as I was reviewing the proposal. So can you talk to us a little bit more about how that decision was made and kind of what factors influenced that final decision to not bring forth residential housing in the initial proposal?
Yeah, well, I guess the housing projects that we're involved in so far are the Salisbury house, which is the 1880s renovation that will be sold as condos. So those end up being so expensive to redo. They're going to end up as wonderfully expensive condos, and so we have that project. The Riverfront Severson building is going to end up with some spectacular apartments that are also not going to be considered in what you would offer someone looking for affordable housing. So our next residential project that we have been exploring is going to be in the affordable housing market, and we drew this Block 7 up to support the cause of the entrepreneurial efforts in the stacks. So we're really looking for the high valuation and catering towards that Class A office space to accomplish the stacks, and did not see this as our avenue to providing affordable housing.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Go ahead, Tom.
Quick question, I think this may be in the report, but I'm not sure. Do the financials for Block 7 to a certain extent pay for the liner site? Is that, am I understanding this correctly?
When you consider both projects, you know, the valuation being 32 million, and that is with selling the land to the Children's Museum, so their valuation is not included in that. So essentially, you know, it's 29.5 million on block 7 and 2.5 million on the Liner site.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Okay, very good, thank you. Appreciate the presentation, very nice, innovative. Scott?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Before we move to the next agenda item, I do want to acknowledge Mike McCorney, who's the Children's Museum Executive Director, is here as well, so thank you for being here. I'm sure there may be some questions at some point along the process about the Children's Museum, so with that, I'll defer to our next agenda item as we're moving agenda items 8 and 9 up, Mr. Chair.
Yep. The interim executive director's report, please.
All right, thank you again. Try to keep this fairly brief. Do want to mention that we are in the midst of the economic development manager applicant search process, and do want to mention that we just finished a second set of interviews yesterday. So I say second set, we did have it posted with an initial review date, and then open until filled. So we had kind of a first wave of applicants and then a second wave where we interviewed some yesterday. So just want to let you know that things are progressing. It's as slow as you would expect. But I'm hoping this time, at the next meeting, the November meeting, I'm hoping we can announce the next economic development manager. Speaking of the next meeting, November, the date of the next meeting currently would sit as the third Wednesday in November, which is also before the third Thursday in November, which is always Thanksgiving. So November 21st would be the next meeting. I'm willing and able to be here, but I'll defer to the rest of the.
I wanted to bring this up just in case. I know Connie's probably out deer hunting, but is that going to be a problem with we definitely want to have a quorum, and we definitely want to have enough folks here.
I'm not deer hunting, but I won't be here.
You won't be here? Okay, no deer hunting for Connie, because she said. You won't be here? Thomas?
I can be here.
I'll be here.
Okay, and I'm gonna assume Dale could be here, so, all right, it looks like we'll have a quorum, so,
Okay.
and I will be here, so we will miss you two, but we will press on.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. The last thing I did want to add, we don't have much to share beyond what was already in this very full agenda, other than we are also in the recruitment process for the Communications and Promotions Coordinator, which is also the Economic Development Division, and the first review of those applications are just underway here this week. So again, hopefully by your next meeting here, scheduled for November 21st, we can have some additional staffing announcements. We'll see.
Okay, very good. So no other announcements or correspondence?
Not for me, Mr. Chair.
Okay, anything else? All right. So let's do this. We've got two items to read. Going into closed session to handle item 1, which is the Redevelopment Authority will convene in closed session for discussion and direction on the terms and conditions of a purchase of properties located at 1704 Oxford Avenue and 106 Cameron Street, which is permitted by Wisconsin statute 19.851E for competitive or bargaining reasons. And the second item in closed session is the redevelopment will convene in closed session for discussion and direction on the negotiation strategy to be employed regarding the selection of projects proposed for 126 North Barstow Street and 124 North Barstow Street, Block 7, which is permitted by Wisconsin statute 19.851E for competitive and bargaining reasons. Can I get a motion to put us into closed session, please?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same side. We will be in closed session. We'll ask the public to leave. Thank you very much for coming. Those of you who made presentations, excellent. Appreciate your effort, and I look forward to working with you.
This program was brought to you by a cooperation between Newsworks and the City of Eau Claire. A transcript of this meeting is available for the hearing impaired. It will be available within 7 days of this telecast. Call 715-839-4912 or TDD 715-839-1689 or write Eau Claire City Clerk, P.O. Box 5148, Eau Claire, Wisconsin 54702-5148. Newsworks is made possible by continuing community support. If you would like to volunteer or make a donation, please contact us via phone at 715